This is the Brave New Coin Crypto Conversation, hosted by Andy Pickering.
Hi everyone, Andy Pickering here. I'm your host and welcome to the Crypto Conversation, a Brave New Coin podcast where we talk to the people building the future in the Bitcoin, blockchain and cryptocurrency space. My guest today is JP Richardson. JP is the co-founder and CEO at Exodus, which is one of the world's biggest, most popular blockchain wallet and crypto ecosystems. I think they have over 2 million users. Hey, welcome to the show, JP.
Hey, Andy. Thank you for having me on today.
It is a pleasure. So yeah, lots to talk about today. I'm excited to talk to you. Exodus it's a cool wallet. I don't mind saying that myself. I've been using it for a few years now. I think it is an excellent wallet. So yeah, I'm excited to talk to you. Just to begin with, am I right in saying you guys have over 2 million users?
That is correct. We have just a hair under 2.3, so 2.225 technically. So yeah, but we have over 2 for sure.
Awesome. Well, look, JP, just in kind of, I suppose, preparation for talking to you today, I saw that you put out a really good Twitter thread, I suppose probably right at the end of last year, just kind of summarizing the journey so far, and there's some really good stuff in that. So in some ways that kind of has formed the backbone to our narrative conversation today, if you like. But let's start at the beginning of that Twitter thread, which is really, I suppose, the founding of Exodus. So take us back to 2015 and what was the conception or origin story for Exodus?
Yeah, so at this moment in time, I had a cryptocurrency, or I was building a Bitcoin wallet called Coinbolt. And Coinbolt did not get any traction at all whatsoever. And the reason for that is because Coinbolt was hideous. In fact, I was out in Silicon Valley in 2014, and somebody came out, or I was at a Bitcoin meetup pitching Coinbolt, and somebody came up to me and they're like, JP, I got to tell you something. Coinbolt looks like a 5-year-old designed it. And I was like, oh yeah, I know. It looks terrible. And so as I was kind of struggling through 2014, early 2015, just not getting any traction on Coinbolt, and Coinbolt was a mobile wallet. My co-founder, Daniel Castanoli, who has design experiences at Nike, BMW, Louis Vuitton, and Apple, to name a few, I had met him actually in 2014, and he was just really passionate about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin as well. And he and I were talking about how can we build an experience where holding a portfolio and managing a portfolio of cryptocurrency is easy to use. Because in 2015, if you wanted to hold your funds, be the custodian of your own funds, it was really difficult. You had to download a number of wallets. And I remember those days. I had a Bitcoin wallet, I had a Dogecoin wallet, a Litecoin wallet, had a Dash wallet. It just had so many different wallets. And I'm like, this is really painful to use and to manage cryptocurrency. Let's make it easy. So that's the origins of Exodus.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and you're exactly right. You know, that's just one example of, I suppose, how you guys solving problems for the average everyday crypto user. And you said in the Twitter thread, JP, that you're now 284 releases later. Exodus has come a long way. And, you know, I suppose one of the things that you mentioned also is you have this cadence, if you like, that you've established of shipping every other week.
Yes, absolutely. We started the first release of Exodus was December 9th, 2015. And from that moment, Daniel and I committed to each other that we are going to ship Exodus every other week so that we can always get in the habit of delivering value to customers on a regular basis. So recently I reiterated to the company, I said that shipping is our religion and dates are our gods. Because that is so important to deliver value to customers regularly. You've probably heard of a number of software companies where they're like, oh, we're going to keep pushing this release back every month. And if we just kind of create this implicit contract with our customers that you're going to get a new version every other week, then we think it's going to make them happy because they're going to get that value on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And, you know, some of the points you raise in this Twitter thread, JP, are also, I think, relevant across the broader crypto ecosystem, and also relevant across, I suppose, the kind of the workforce, workplace trends of the moment. So, for example, you talk about how I think you're based in Nebraska, and that is presumably where Exodus started from, but like a lot of different companies around crypto, you know, I think you're very much remote only, or remote first now. Is that fair to say?
That is fair to say, and we were a remote first since day one,
right?
Because, you know, starting a company that we envision in the future, a company that's native to the internet, we thought that the best way to do that would be remote only, so that we could move fast and get the best talent all over the world. Absolutely.
And you've taken that even further, though, JP, because I see that you talk about how, you know, Bitcoin is a transparent ledger of accounting, of Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency. And you say that Exodus salaries are transparent to I suppose Exodus's fellow employees, if that makes sense. And not only that, but those salaries are paid in Bitcoin. So, you know, this is I think this is but both of those points are trends as well. But can you speak to why you've decided to follow that path?
Yeah, absolutely. Transparency is kind of is a core value that I have personally, and I remember back when I was working for companies pre-Exodus, pre my entrepreneurial journey, and I hated that salaries and other salaries were a dirty secret across the company, but everybody would talk about them anyways. And so I thought, what if we created a company in the future where all the salaries are transparent? And what it does is it makes us as a company be proactive on raising people's salaries. Because what a lot of companies will do, they'll start, new employees will come in and they will hire these new employees at much higher rates, and then they never go and take care of their existing employees. It just so happens that, of course, our value of transparency matches that value and ethos of the blockchain. And so that's why it was a good fit. And yes, in addition to that, we pay 100% of our salaries in Bitcoin. And so what this allowed us to do in the early days, especially, is we could find talent. And I have an engineering background, so I was very active on GitHub. And so I would connect with these developers, and I would find these developers all over the world. And I would say, hey, listen, you know, you like Bitcoin, you like cryptocurrency, your open source is great. How would you like to work here at Exodus? And this also, the combination of the two of paying salaries in Bitcoin allow us to hire people quickly. And we hire people from all over the world. And so the question then becomes, well, wait a second. What a lot of companies do when they hire people all over the world is they will pay people outside the United States, outside of North America, much lower rates. And that's not what we do. We actually anchor our salaries to the Denver, Colorado market. So people in Russia, Nigeria, South America, wherever you are, you will have a salary that is competitive in the Denver, Colorado market.
Amazing. And have you had much pushback from people you've talked to who have perhaps been slightly reluctant to take all of their salary in Bitcoin, or people just jumped at it?
Yeah, there has been pushback. There's definitely been pushback. There's, you know, people will come to the table and now with the first interview that we have with people, we say, hey, by the way, our salaries are 100% in Bitcoin. And some people will think that we're like, oh, that's a funny joke, but serious. No, it's serious, 100% in Bitcoin. Yeah. So yes, we have had pushback for sure. But the cool thing about this is that what this does is it forces people to use the technology. If you're going to work at Exodus, you have got to understand the technology, and you have to have an open mind about the technology. And it has a nice filter, because those that are not open-minded for the technology should not and cannot work at Exodus.
I love it, JP, and I really like the fact that you're obviously you yourself and I think Exodus as a company or a product, or you're very vocally supportive of Bitcoin, even though Exodus supports all these other assets, and you're playing across DeFi, NFTs, all that other stuff, which we will talk about very soon. But you're really vocally supportive of Bitcoin, I suppose, as the the original blockchain, the original cryptocurrency, and a lot of people. I'm sure you've seen people that they're very dismissive of Bitcoin now. They talk about it being just like the equivalent of a kind of pet rock compared to the functionality available on smart contract chains and all that stuff. But it's without Bitcoin we wouldn't be here, and I think it's fair to say that I think, JP, that for crypto itself to do well, we need Bitcoin to be healthy and strong as well. And I see you're doing like donations to core developers and stuff like that, right?
Yes, that's absolutely right. We just recently donated $350,000 to sponsor open source core Bitcoin development, and we're going to continue. We're going to continue to do this in the future. And the reason for this is that Bitcoin is what spawned this industry, this ecosystem, and Bitcoin compared to all the other crypto assets is, I believe, will be the best store of value in the future. And the reason for that is that it is the only asset, or one of the few assets in the world, where as the demand increases, the supply stays the same. And then on top of that, it's predictable. 20 years from now, you know what the supply is going to be. 40 years from now, you know what the supply is going to be. So I think it's going to be the world's best store of value in the future. And we as a company, we as Exodus and myself personally, owe our success to Bitcoin. And so we are more than happy to support Bitcoin development.
Fantastic, fantastic. Look, I said we'd talk more about Exodus as the wallet, as the product, the apps, the services, and we will. But there's just a couple of other interesting data points from this Twitter thread, which listeners, if you don't follow JP on Twitter, then I'm sure you can you can search for him, but I'll put a link in the show notes as well. But you talked about I think the growth in YouTube subscribers, and you're kind of hinting at some future media plans there. And I had a look at your YouTube channel, and yeah, that seems to be going well. But this is what happens when crypto has a good year. Everything goes exponential, from kind of wallet users to YouTube subscribers, right?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. But I think what makes sense and why people are excited about our YouTube channel is because Exodus, as you know, and many of your listeners already know, that Exodus is the most beautiful wallet in existence. And so design and beauty and visuals are a part of our DNA. So it makes sense for us to go to YouTube and start creating content there. And eventually we're going to turn this YouTube channel, we're going to turn into a place where we can tell stories about what's happening in the ecosystem, and even beyond that, how is the traditional financial system impacting people in a negative way, and how can cryptocurrency help people in a positive way? And so that's what we're looking to do in the future, is just continue to tell the story of cryptocurrency and how cryptocurrency can benefit and help people's lives.
Fantastic. Well, look, JP, you mentioned the focus on beautiful design, right? And I think you're right. That has always been a core value of Exodus. And certainly a few years ago, there was, the user experience in crypto was extremely clunky. And so when you guys when I discovered you, there was, not too many other competitors that had a product that was, I suppose, as sleek, if you like, as Exodus. And the example I always use, and I'm sure you've had many people say this to you, JP, but the sound effect in the Exodus wallet when you receive a transaction it was just such a, it's the little touches like that the likes of Apple kind of pride themselves on those little touches. But Yeah, speak to I suppose the this Exodus philosophy of design.
Yeah, so we like to call our philosophy of design called emotional driven design, and what that means is we put ourselves in the shoe of the customer, and we ask ourselves, how is the customer going to feel when they are experiencing our product, and that guides and drives our design decisions. So you mentioned the sound specifically, and kind of just early funny story about that is back in 2015 when it was just Daniel and myself. Daniel, he's like, hey, we're going to put these sounds in Exodus. And I always trusted him with his design and user experience decisions. And I'm like, okay, well, let's do that. And at first, I absolutely hated it. I hated it.
Really?
But yes, I hated it. And I would be like, oh gosh, this is terrible. Why do we have these sounds? And then over time, I came to realize, like, this is what makes sense, because if you have your wallet open and let's say it's, buried behind some windows or something like that, and let's say you're expecting a payment, you can continue about your daily workflow, and all of a sudden when that money comes in, when you get paid, and so all of a sudden what happens is that sound kind of creates that Pavlovian response of like the bell, and the dog running to the table or whatever, ready to eat the food, right? It's like you get really excited. And so these are the sorts of decisions that go into creating Exodus. How can we make a beautiful experience that's going to be friendly to the mainstream? And that's how we think about things, and how are people going to feel when they experience Exodus?
Well, I think you've done an incredible job at that, JP. And so, you talk about then providing this beautiful crypto experience for the mainstream. So if you guys have, say, 2.3 million users, but I don't know, can you put that into perspective? Like, are there any similar wallets? I know Exodus is very much a complete ecosystem at this point, but and I suppose where I'm heading with this, JP, is the responsibility that you guys have for the broader crypto ecosystem, because you guys are effectively responsible for protecting so many different people's assets, and the kind of percentage of those different assets on the different chains is quite significant, right?
Absolutely. And so that's why we take security very seriously, and as a part of our security process as well. One of the things that we do that's I don't think any other company does this, but we audit every single line of code, including third-party libraries, third-party software packages that come into Exodus. We audit those one by one, because we want to create an environment that is very secure for our customers. And so security is top of mind. In addition to that, that's why we've released Exodus supporting the Trezor as well, so that people that want even that extra step of security, let's say they don't trust this other software that's running on their desktop, or they're worried about anything like that, then customers can use Exodus with their Trezor and know that they're going to have the Trezor protect their funds, because it's a cold storage device, which some people really appreciate and love.
Of course, absolutely. And so, I talked about how you guys represent a sizable percentage of, I guess, assets held is one way of describing it, but also assets that are being staked on the various chains that support that. So I don't know if you want to speak to that, but I was just looking in that Twitter thread. Let's use Solana. I think you said there were, about 26.5%, 26.5% of the network is essentially represented by Exodus users, if that makes sense. This is the staking, right?
Yes, that's the staking, and that's roughly 26% of unique addresses, right? So that's the key distinction here, is that if you look at unique addresses, 26% come from Exodus. Which what this shows, though, is that from an opportunity standpoint, there's opportunity for us to build more on the Solana ecosystem that will provide additional value for those customers, given that we have such a sizable percentage using Exodus.
What would you say, JP? I suppose just to play devil's advocate, the whole idea, of course, of crypto blockchain is, a distributed, decentralized global network. But with the rise of products like yourself, which is, you could look at it as one form of centralization, because you kind of become, a crypto bank, if you like. Obviously, it's a little bit different from a legacy financial bank, but I think you know what I mean. How do you frame that?
Yeah, so I think what's required here is baby steps for people. So if we think there's a wide spectrum of products here. And so what I mean by that is, let's say that you are a customer and you just want to get exposure to Bitcoin, but you don't even want to touch Bitcoin. You don't even want to think about Bitcoin. Well, fortunately for you, your brokerage supports GBTC, right? And so you go and you buy GBTC. Okay. So that's fine. There's a class of customers that serves well. But there's other class that's like, okay, well, I want to dig a little deeper. I'd like to sign up for a service, and I would like to maybe buy a few assets, but I don't have to want to worry about anything that comes along with being the custodian of my own funds. So maybe I'm going to go sign up for Coinbase.com. I can buy Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, and I can just let it sit there, and I'm happy doing that. So that there's a class of customers that are doing that. What I think's going to happen, though, is there's going to be an up-and-coming generation of people that really care about being the custody of their own assets because of the increasingly distrust for big centralized institutions. And so this is where our product serves well today, is that today, Exodus, you are the custodian of your own funds. And yes, Exodus still relies upon our back-end servers, but our Exodus, the company, can never shut you down from your funds or lock you out of your funds, because you always have that 12-word phrase at your disposal. So we don't ever hold your keys. We don't touch your keys. You control your keys. You control your wealth. And so you can take that 12-word phrase and you can go to any other wallet that you want. Now, long term, though, our vision is to build Exodus in such a way that Exodus itself is 100% decentralized. So let me tell you a little bit more about what I mean by that. So today, you are seeing the rise of decentralized exchanges. But today, Exodus relies upon services like CoinMarketCap to get pricing sources, pricing feeds. However, as decentralized exchanges continue to rise in prominence and they start to overtake centralized exchanges, it'll be only normal and natural and more correct to derive prices from decentralized exchanges. So then essentially what you have then is a decentralized pricing source. So you can see a future where there's going to be this evolution of increasingly more and more decentralization, and Exodus is going to continue on this journey to provide that more and more decentralization and make it easy for our customers, because that's the trick here, is that you've got to make decentralization feel so easy that as a customer, you don't have to think about anything, not even the crazy 12-word phrase, because the mainstream should not have to think about it, but they should always have access to it if they need it. And so that becomes tricky to solve over the next 5 years.
I love it, JP. All right. Well, yeah, it would be fascinating to see how all of that plays out. Well, let's talk about some of the apps or dapps, if you like, that are available in Exodus, and kind of maybe just explain how you see that working as an ecosystem and how that will evolve into the future. And, feel free to just use some of the different dapps that are available as an example, and, speak to the kind of the use cases that are available to people.
Absolutely. So our very first dApp that we released in integration inside of Exodus was with Compound Finance. And the reason for that is that we wanted to create an experience where you could easily deposit your DAI, your US dollar stablecoin DAI, into Compound Finance, and then you could earn yield on those dollars. Now, what happened is that there was the summer of DeFi 2020 where the gas fees of Ethereum just started to skyrocket. And so then if you were going to do a deposit into Compound, it would cost you about $100 to do. And so for the mainstream, that became untenable. And so that's, again, the mainstream is the filter that we're thinking about, building long-term mainstream experiences. So we started with Compound, and then we went on to build an experience with SportX. And SportX allows you to wager on sporting events like the NFL, NBA, or what have you, some esports as well. And SportX is built on Polygon, the Polygon Ethereum layer 2 network. And so the fees are much more friendly for customers to come in and do that. Now, SportX is not available in America and some other jurisdictions, but it's still, for people outside of America, the experience is quite unique in that you can easily just wager on these games. But for us, it's about building real world use cases for the mainstream. And so both Compound and SportX are available on the Exodus desktop product. And then on the Exodus mobile product, we recently integrated FTX. We have a partnership with FTX. And so this is actually, FTX is on both desktop and mobile. But what FTX, the integration with FTX allows you to do is easily view your FTX portfolios inside of Exodus, exchange through FTX inside of Exodus, and onboard into Solana DeFi easily with FTX. What a lot of people don't know about FTX is that FTX allows you to easily have native assets on Solana. So what this means is if you deposit Bitcoin into FTX, you can withdraw that Bitcoin out on top of Solana and then use Bitcoin on the Solana network. And so we see it as a vehicle for our customers to onboard into Solana and Solana DeFi. And then the next app that we integrated was with Magic Eden. Now, Magic Eden is a Solana DeFi NFT marketplace. And so long-term, the vision here is to plug in these pieces together, FTX and Magic Eden, so that a customer can ultimately open up Exodus and see a dolphin with a goofy sombrero, maybe smoking a cigarette or something like that, and can easily buy that dolphin with a sombrero with their credit card and not even really have to think about, I'm using Solana or not, but they can experience the world of NFTs in a mainstream style way. So that's kind of how we think about these sorts of things.
And well, it's obvious then, JP, that you are, I suppose, excited by the promise and potential of Solana. And obviously Solana did extremely well in 2021. And one of the reasons for that is, as you kind of alluded to, the the gas fees on Ethereum are priced out mainstream users or smaller retail users, however you want to describe that segment of the market. Even so, though, the incredible success of the NFT ecosystem on Ethereum, if you like, particularly based around platforms like OpenSea. How do you compare? What am I saying? How do you compare, I guess, Ethereum and Solana? Will there be support for Ethereum NFTs in Exodus?
Yeah, so rolling back to OpenSea for just a minute, here's the thing: is that the mainstream NFT experience will not exist on Ethereum layer 1. Yes, we have people like Stephen Curry, the NBA superstar, buying a Bored Ape Yacht Club, and we have Eminem buying a Bored Ape Yacht Club. And so that signifies that NFTs are moving mainstream, but these individuals are able to afford those really expensive NFTs. And in addition to that, they're able to afford the expensive gas fees that come along with it. So if you're going to buy an NFT on Ethereum or transfer an NFT on Ethereum, it's going to cost you $50 to $100 in gas fees. And we think that the mainstream is not going to accept that. So while ultimately we will likely support Ethereum NFTs in Exodus, it's just not going to be a priority anytime soon. But we're seeing on Solana, the NFT market, the NFT ecosystem on Solana is growing really fast. So not only is Magic Eden's success phenomenal, the most popular NFT marketplace on Solana, they have, I don't know if their numbers are public, but I know that they have sizable NFT, they have sizable buy and sell volume, exchange volume compared to OpenSea. It's quite significant to see. Now, in addition to that, you recently may have seen that, Justin Kan, the founder of Twitch TV, he recently started a Solana NFT marketplace focused on gaming assets called Fractal. So he's building an NFT marketplace on Solana. And then you may have seen that Michael Jordan and his son have started an NFT marketplace geared towards athletes on Solana. So I think that when it comes to mainstream consumer experiences, they have to be fast and they have to be cheap for the mainstream to ultimately accept those. So that's why how we think about things.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And if that is correct, if and no reason to think you wouldn't be directionally correct on that, that just means that there's still an incredible opportunity in NFTs on Solana in the future. What perhaps is missing here, though, JP? Maybe we're just too early. You need to talk to some of these marketplaces and just say, guys, look at what we're building at Exodus. Look at how slick and sexy our product is. Why can't someone build an NFT marketplace that is of the same standard, JP?
Yeah, and look, I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a lot of other players enter into this space and build NFT marketplace experiences that are close to ours and that of Magic Eden. You heard the announcement from Coinbase that they are building an NFT marketplace.
Yes.
And so they will likely, I think, they'll produce an NFT marketplace that is going to be pretty good. I mean, their product generally is pretty good, and so I expect that they will build one that's pretty good. Now, the problem, though, with that is that their NFT marketplace, it would not surprise me if it was custodial in that they hold the keys to the entire access to those all the NFT assets that you would buy. But from a user experience standpoint, I'm guessing their NFT marketplace will be pretty good. We're going to see more players building these NFT marketplaces because there's too much exchange volume in NFT sales happening for people to ignore. I mean, it's insane that OpenSea is doing close to $1 billion in exchange volume a month, and they have exceeded that at times. And so we'll definitely see other NFT marketplaces come along.
And I'm just curious, JP, what's your take, if you like, or opinion on NFTs? Are you an NFT guy? Like, we'll talk about DeFi soon. I know you're excited by DeFi, but so yeah, what's your personal view on NFTs? And I guess what insights do you see from your users?
So me personally, I own some NFTs. I do not own any of the blue chip NFTs. I've thought about it. I've thought about do I want to buy a $30,000 or $50,000 Solana degenerate ape, or do I want to spend $250,000 to $300,000 on an Ethereum Bored Ape Yacht Club? I've thought about it, but I haven't gotten to the point of like I'm gonna do it. And the reason for that is that I still think that it's early and that only some of these are referred to as PFP NFTs, which really stands for profile picture NFTs, the NFTs that people put as their profile pictures on social networks. It's early here. And some are going to emerge as the strong winners over time. But I think many of them are going to absolutely flop. And so while I think that's an interesting movement, what I think is really cool are some of the initiatives where, let's take like a rock. There's a rock band, I can't remember the name. They released a collection of NFTs, and they gave it to their fans. And they said that by owning this NFT, by holding this NFT, you're going to be able to come get special access to our parties, our events, to our merchandise, to our music, to things like that. So using NFTs to create a community is where I'm really interested in, and what I'm thinking about, and like how can we do that as a company? Like, you know, Exodus's stock is on the blockchain. I'm sure maybe we'll talk about that later. But, you know, is it possible for us to airdrop NFTs to our Exodus stockholders and find a way to create a community of Exodus stockholders that hold these specific NFTs? So creating communities is what I think is really interesting with NFTs. And that's one aspect. The second aspect is gaming. Gaming NFTs, I think, are really cool. And hold a lot of potential for people to accrue value in the games like Axie Infinity and this whole play to earn movement. That's fascinating to me, that people in the Philippines are earning living by playing Axie Infinity. Really think that's cool. And then finally, NFTs that you know, might represent like real world things where it's kind of a pain in the ass to do a transaction. So for example, like a house, when I go and sell my house or buy a house, to do that whole closing process is really painful. Can that be simplified with an NFT of the title, or same with an NFT, the title of my car or whatever? That process is just a bit painful. So NFTs there, I think we're still a few years off from those sorts of experiences, but I think those will be game changing when they happen.
Very much agree. Very nicely said, JP. Well, you did mention the Exodus stock or shares on the blockchain, so I know that's another big subject as well. But just as we start to finish off this part of the podcast, then yeah, two things I want to talk about. So let's do the Exodus, the stock structure, which is really interesting, and then we'll spend just 5 minutes or so on DeFi as well. But yeah, so talk us through what you guys are doing with the stock.
Yeah, so in April of 2021 is when we had the Exodus public offering. And so what that allowed us to do is we were the only company that has been able to offer our common stock to the public in the United States through Exodus Wallet in a cryptocurrency only offering. And so in April, people were allowed to come buy Exodus stock with either Bitcoin, Ethereum, or USDC. And then once we raised up to, we did this with the SEC Regulation A plus vehicle. That's how we did this. Yes. And once we raised the maximum amount of 75 million, we closed the offering, and then now live trading is on T0. But the stock is digitally represented on the Algorand blockchain. And I think the world just doesn't see how big this is yet, because when you can have near instant settlement, where if I transfer my stock from me to somebody else and have near instant settlement, as opposed to what exists today, where it's 2-day settlement, 2 days with the DTCC, then that's a problem. But having this near instant settlement of the block time, essentially the speed of the blockchain, is quite unique and will be game changing as more companies come along and do this same style of offering.
Yeah, well, it'll be again fascinating to see how that evolves. And you said in the Twitter thread, JP, that you were a bit surprised that I suppose more people hadn't taken a notice of what you guys were doing and how innovative you thought it potentially is, right?
Absolutely. I mean, given that the equities market is trillions and trillions of dollars, and given that we are the first and only company right now in the United States that has our common stock digitally represented on the blockchain, and that the SEC qualified this offering in 2021, and I felt like in the crypto ecosystem, it made a little bit of news in the crypto ecosystem, but not enough to really for people to even talk about it. And then in addition to that, on the mainstream side of things, it didn't make any news whatsoever. And to me, this is a historic accomplishment to actually make this a reality. And yeah, I was really surprised that that people didn't really pay much attention to it, and for the gravitas of what this ultimately means, that we have paved a way now for an American company to digitally represent their stock on the blockchain. We have paved that way. It's historic, but much like the early days of Bitcoin, not a whole lot of people paid attention then. It's still early, and I anticipate over the next few years, more and more companies will start paying attention and start having similar offerings. And I suspect that firms like the NASDAQ will help to facilitate these offerings.
Yeah, well, it's interesting then, JP. So, another example is Stacks, formerly known as Blockstack. So I forget exactly how their deal was structured, but they did something, I suppose, vaguely similar, and they got approval, if you like, from the SEC. It's weird though. Do you think, or how was it? What was it like dealing with the SEC? Did you actually have much dealings, or was it all sort of just a couple of steps removed? And they sort of, it's just strange to me that they can work with something like what you guys are doing, something like what Blockstack are doing. They can approve a Bitcoin futures ETF, but Mr. Gary Gensler, no to anything spot based still in America, even now here in 2022, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me provide a quick distinction on what Stacks did versus what we did. Is that Stacks, they used the same vehicle, the Regulation A+, and so it was historic that they were the first to do a token offering. Right. So the Stacks token is just a token, whereas Correct. What our offering is actual equity. It's real equity, in ownership inside of Exodus. So that's the distinction there. But yeah, look, the fact that the SEC has qualified these offerings to proceed, but has not qualified or allowed a Bitcoin spot ETF, it's frustrating. I mean, it is frustrating because it's clearly the Bitcoin spot ETF is clearly a product that people want. The markets are quite mature now. So I hope in time that this will make its way through. But yeah, I share the frustrations as well.
I said we'd talk DeFi, JP, so we better talk DeFi. Obviously a big rabbit hole in itself. But so I'd love to understand a little bit about how, from an Exodus, I suppose, mainstream user perspective, how you approach DeFi on behalf of your users, and then also be fascinated to hear, I suppose, your kind of thoughts and opinions on how DeFi evolves in the years to come.
So long term, what we have to do is we have to build, like I said, experiences that are mainstream user experiences. Yeah. So what that would mean is that, as I mentioned earlier, if you're going to go buy the NFT, like a turtle with a mohawk, you should be able to easily use your credit card or Apple Pay and get that turtle with a mohawk. Or let's say you have $1,000 in your checking account, your traditional bank checking account, and let's say that you want to earn 20% from Anchor and the yield that Anchor provides, and you want to earn that 20%. You should be able to do it with just 1-2 clicks of a button and make that happen. So that's the world that we want to build, but we understand that world is going to take a while to build. And so that's why you're seeing these, what we refer to as native DeFi experiences inside of Exodus. So what that means are these experiences where you can download Exodus Desktop or Exodus Mobile, and you can experience these DeFi experiences like SportX or Magic Eden directly inside of Exodus. But we understand that the ecosystem is growing super fast, far faster than any other ecosystem that I've ever, or industry that I've ever been a part of. And what I've learned and discovered is that right now, me personally, as a DeFi degenerate, I have a number of browser extensions. I have Phantom, I have MetaMask, I have Terra Station, I have the Arweave one, I have just a number of different of the browser plugins and browser extensions. And that's okay, like, to experience DeFi in this manner, but it's also frustrating because it's not user friendly. And so we recognize this, and it reminds me of Exodus in 2015, pre-Exodus in 2015, when I had to have and download all of these wallets to hold cryptocurrency. Now I have to download all of these browser extensions to experience DeFi in these web browsers. So we are going to build a browser extension, and we're going to simplify this. We're going to make this real easy to use so that people and customers don't have to download multiple extensions. And I've never said this publicly yet, so I'm telling you right here on your show, Andy, that we are going to build a browser extension. And like I said, we think this is going to be a great way for people to experience DeFi and Web3. But long term, we still don't think that DeFi and Web3 will flourish in the web browser. We still think that by building experiences inside of Exodus and ultimately building a community of developers to build on top of Exodus, that'll be the future. But that's still 3 to 5 years away.
Well, that's exciting, JP. What's the timeline on the browser plugin?
It'll come this year. I don't have a timeline just yet on when we'll release it, because once I give a timeline, we will ship and execute. Like I said earlier, shipping is our religion, dates are our gods. So once I give a date, you can be rest assured that's when it'll happen, but it'll be this year.
Fantastic. All right. Well, that feels like a really nice place, JP, to go to a quick break, and then we will come back. We will finish off. We'll have some fun. We'll do the very famous Crypto Conversation hot take round. We'll be back in 1 second.
In today's crypto market, the team at Brave New Coin are the sector's leading builders of custom crypto indices. BNC's powerful indexing engine draws on Brave New Coin's premium data to calculate high-frequency intraday and end-of-day indices for a wide range of index products. BNC's custom indices help you to gain exposure to the crypto assets class and track your performance against the market without having to become a stock picker. Brave New Coin's custom indices team delivers experienced consultancy, premium data, and trusted calculation. Contact BNC today to find out more.
All right, we're back, and I'm with JP Richardson, CEO, co-founder, Exodus Wallet. And man, we have covered a lot of ground today, JP. This has been a really good chat, a conversation. And well, I like to finish each Crypto Conversation podcast with a quick round, JP, of rapid fire Crypto Conversation hot takes. Are you up for it?
Let's do it.
All right, JP, just want your hot takes, quick, snappy answers, hot take style. Approach it however you want. But the first question, JP, is where do you sit on the Bitcoin maximalist to multi-coin or multi-chain opportunist spectrum?
Well, as a DeFi degenerate, I mean, I definitely experience, play with a bunch of different assets, but I will always love Bitcoin. Bitcoin is my biggest bag in my portfolio, and that will always be the case. It will be the world's soundest money. It is the best money. And so I am maybe secretly a little bit of a maximalist at heart, but I still love the innovation that is flourishing elsewhere, and I want to help that innovation.
I love it. All right. Well, what would you say then, JP, is your firmest conviction crypto opinion?
That stocks will come to the blockchain. It's inevitable that stocks, like we were the first to pave this way, but stocks, the whole entire stocks and equities market will come to the blockchain. That's the inevitability that will happen in time.
Love it as well. All right. Well, Bill Gates famously said that we tend to overestimate what we can accomplish in 2 years and underestimate what we can accomplish in 10. And I'm sure, your experience so far with Exodus would certainly speak to that. But if you cast your eye 10 years forward, whatever you like, JP, could be blockchain, Bitcoin, or Exodus, what does it look like in 10 years' time?
Oh, almost everybody in the world is using cryptocurrency on a day-to-day basis, whether they know it or not. Maybe they're going to go buy some bananas at a local fruit vendor, and they're using a merchant app on their phone to buy and check out. And they maybe know that they're using cryptocurrency, or they don't know, but they will still be using cryptocurrency. I would definitely say, I'll say 90% of the world is using cryptocurrency then.
I love it. Very bullish indeed, JP. And I suppose that speaks to, I think I've seen, I'm not sure if it's you or Exodus, or perhaps this is a kind of a stretch goal for you guys, but I think you've talked about before how one of the goals of Exodus is to onboard half of the world's population into Exodus to exit the banks by 2030. Is that something you think about?
I think about it all the time, and the distinction here is that we're looking to get half of the world out of the traditional financial system. It doesn't have to be into Exodus, and so
Sure.
if we can help in any way, and then that's a positive aspect. And so, yeah, we think that I actually think, like I said, 50% is the lower bound, but 90% is the upper bound.
Fantastic. Well, the flip side of this, of course, is, represented by a quote by famous sci-fi author William Gibson, who, of course, said that the future is already here, it's just not evenly distributed. Can you think of an example of the future being here, and I'm sure you can, of the future being here right now, JP, but most people just aren't really aware of it?
Yeah, stocks on the blockchain. Our stock is on the blockchain, and like I said, not a lot of people know that stocks are digitally represented on the blockchain today, and so the future is here.
It is very much here. It is just not evenly distributed, but it is coming thick and fast. If we zoom out though, JP, time to get weird, time to zoom out. What do you see as the long-term future for the human race? Do you see dystopia or utopia?
Yeah, short term, I think over the next 20 years, we're going to see dystopian. I think it's going to continue to get worse and worse with the divisiveness that's happening in the United States, with the fall of the US dollar as a reserve currency. And you think about all the young children that are home today facing the challenges, the hardships they're facing today, not going to schools. And then fast forward those children, 10, 20 years from now, and the aggression and anger that they're going to have towards the world and society, I think it's going to be pretty grim, unfortunately, over the next 2 decades. However, I think that fast forward 3, 4, 5 decades, I think we're going to have a lot of flourishing and beauty, and the world will be in a great spot by that moment in time.
I love it. All right, let's finish this off, JP. What is your favorite science fiction, a book, film, TV show, or universe?
I'd say my favorite sci-fi film, I'll go with Star Wars. Star Wars is probably my favorite, even though it's kind of cheesy, but probably Star Wars, because it's universally liked by children as well.
Absolutely. Are you watching Boba Fett, the new Boba Fett season? I'm
not, but I heard it's great.
Yeah, I've watched episode 1 so far. It was cool, similar vibe to obviously the Mandalorian. But yeah, excited to keep watching, see how it rolls out. This has been, as I say, a lot of fun, JP. Thank you so much for joining us today. There's nothing else to say except to hand the metaphorical microphone back to your good self. Please tell the people, if they're not familiar with Exodus, and look, if you're still listening now and you haven't used Exodus, well, JP, please tell people where they can go, what they need to do to engage with the Exodus ecosystem, and how they can find you on Twitter or any of your other platforms.
Yeah, head on over to exodus.com and exodus.com/careers. We are looking for the best to join us in this mission of helping half the world exit the traditional financial system. So we would love to have you join us and come have fun and get paid in Bitcoin while doing it. And then you can follow me personally on Twitter at JP Richardson.
Awesome. Hey, thanks very much, JP. All the best, and bye for now.
All right, thanks, Andy. I appreciate the time.